The first rays of Liberty City's morning sun filtered through the grimy window of Roman's apartment, offered little warmth or promise. Niko Bellic awoke with the bitter taste of disillusionment in his mouth. The grand visions of wealth and a fresh start had evaporated overnight, replaced by the stark reality of his cousin's squalor and lies. He had no job, no money, and no real connections in this colossal, indifferent city. His options, he realized with a heavy sigh, were painfully few. Yet, a faint ember of his innate resilience still flickered. He had survived worse. He would start anew, even if it meant beginning at rock bottom. The most immediate and, perhaps, only viable path forward led directly to Roman. Despite the recent deception, Roman was his sole tether to this new world. And Roman had a business, however humble, a taxi depot. A job, even a meager one, was a job. Swallowing his pride and the lingering sting of betrayal, Niko decided to head to Roman's office in Hove Beach, a district as faded and worn as his current hopes. The drive was an education. Finally, he spotted the faded sign, Roman's Taxi Depot. It was hardly the bustling enterprise Roman had painted in his letters, but at least it was real. Inside, the depot was a cluttered, somewhat chaotic space, filled with the aroma of stale coffee and worn upholstery. Roman was there, as boisterous and unapologetic as ever, but not alone. Beside him stood Mallory, his girlfriend. She was a woman of warmth and surprising resilience, a stark contrast to Roman's bluster, and it quickly became apparent that she was more than just a girlfriend. She was the woman Roman genuinely intended to marry, a steady anchor in his turbulent life. She greeted Niko with genuine kindness, a welcome balm after his cynical arrival. The fragile sense of calm, however, was shattered by the abrupt entry of another man. The air in the depot seemed to thicken, growing heavy with unspoken tension. He was a presence, undeniably, with a swagger that spoke of petty authority and menace. This was Vladimir Glebov, owner of the dimly lit establishment known as the Comrades Bar. But Vlad was more than just a bar owner. He was a loan shark, a predator who thrived on the desperation of others. Vlad's eyes, cold and calculating, fixed on Roman, then flickered dismissively to Niko. It quickly became clear that Vlad was here for money. Not just a little, but a significant sum. To Niko's utter bewilderment and a renewed wave of disbelief, the truth slammed into him. Roman, his cousin who boasted of boundless wealth and luxury, was deeply, irrevocably in debt to this dangerous man. The sports cars, the mansions, the successful life, it was all a big lie, and Roman's life was built on borrowed money and desperation. Niko had come to America seeking a clean slate, only to find himself instantly entangled in the very kind of criminal underworld he had desperately tried to escape. His fresh start was already poisoned. Before Niko could fully process the depth of Roman's financial ruin, his cousin was already pivoting to another desperate scheme. "Niko, my friend, a quick favor," Roman chirped, trying to sound nonchalant as he ushered Niko towards the cab. "Just a little drive to the hardware store. Need to pick up some supplies." Niko, still reeling from the revelation of Roman's debt, felt a fresh wave of suspicion. A hardware store? Nothing about Roman suggested a sudden interest in home improvement. As they drove, the truth, as always with Roman, trickled out in reluctant, self-serving confessions. That hardware store, it turned out, was merely a front for a backroom gambling racket. Roman, ever the eternal optimist, believed he could win back his fortunes at the card table. Then came the truly chilling admission. The money Roman was about to gamble away wasn't his own, it was money he owed to a different, equally dangerous set of creditors, the Albanian loan sharks. Niko's jaw tightened. He had fled one war-torn land only to find himself dragged into another, this one fought in the shadows of a glittering metropolis. Upon arriving at the nondescript hardware store, Roman fumbled in his pocket and pulled out an old, beat-up cell phone. "Here, Niko," he said, handing it over. "My new number's already saved. Just keep an eye out for them. The Albanians. They drive a beige Willard. Give me a call when they arrive, okay? And don't hurt them, Niko. Please. Just a call." The request hung heavy in the air, a stark, undeniable command. Niko looked at the phone, then at the grimy entrance to the gambling den. This wasn't a fresh start. This wasn't a job. This was a descent. Roman's desperate lies had finally dragged Niko Bellic, a man who had sworn off violence, directly into the murky, dangerous underworld of Liberty City. The lines between past and present, between escape and entanglement, blurred into a single, terrifying reality. Time crawled by as Niko stood sentinel outside the hardware store, the old cell phone feeling heavy in his hand. Finally, a familiar model, a beige Willard, pulled up to the curb. The figures inside were unmistakable, hardened men, their faces etched with impatience and menace. The Albanian loan sharks had arrived. Niko's thumb hovered over Roman's number. "They're here, Roman," he muttered into the receiver, his voice flat, devoid of emotion. Inside, Roman's frantic movements were audible, a muffled scramble that quickly led to the sound of a back door creaking open. Moments later, Roman burst out, a panic blur, scrambling into the passenger seat of the taxi. "Go, Niko, go!" he shrieked, his voice laced with terror. Niko slammed his foot on the accelerator, the old cab lurching forward just as the Albanians emerged from the hardware store, their faces contorted with rage. They had realized Roman's escape. Their own vehicle roared to life, tires screeching as they gave chase. And just like that, Niko's first job in Liberty City began, a desperate, high-speed flight for survival, a grim baptism by fire into the city's criminal depths. His heart heavy, a familiar coldness settling in his stomach, Niko weaved through traffic, the Albanian's car a persistent, growling shadow in his rearview mirror. He drove with the precision of a man who knew how to survive, honed by years of conflict. The objective was simple: escape the loan sharks and get Roman back to the depot. He executed it flawlessly, his mind a whirlwind of anger and resignation. This wasn't the life he dreamed of. This wasn't the fresh start. As they finally screeched to a halt back at the depot, safe for the moment, Niko looked at Roman, then out at the unforgiving city skyline. He had escaped one war, only to find himself in another, a perpetual cycle of violence and desperation. He had no idea then, as he stared into the neon-lit abyss of Liberty City, that the chase he had just survived was merely a prelude.